Welcome, everyone. It's 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, and one of those in-between hours everywhere else where you are viewing us this evening. And welcome to day number 2 of the Virtual Zone Summit for Zones 28 and 32. Please join me in giving a big, hearty Rotary Zone 2832 welcome to our Director-elect and Event Chair for the Virtual Zone Summit, somewhere from the confines of his home in the heart of Zone 32. Here's Drew Kessler.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Rotarians of all ages. Do we have a show for you? The next hour and a half is going to be action-packed with some of the top speakers, quite frankly, in the world. And we talk about silver linings and all the opportunities that this Zoom platform has provided us. And this is the exact case in point where my hope is upwards to 1,000 people come together tonight to hear the amazing inspiration, the amazing stories, and the amazing fortitude that these individuals possess and bring forward. I'm really excited for everything that's to come for tonight. We have a fabulous lineup, which I'm not going to keep speaking to keep you from, as we want to get right into it. So with that, I thank you very much for attending this evening. If you haven't had an opportunity, please feel free to post the link of this event on your social media, email it to your friends, because it's not too late for them to jump on. At this point, I'd like to introduce Vice President of Rotary International, our Director, Valerie Wafer, to introduce and welcome our first speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see so many with us tonight with the theme, Together We Can Inspire. I'm thrilled that you chose to spend your evening or afternoon with us. Serve to Change Lives is our theme this year. But I know for many of us, not only why we join Rotary, but why we stay is our service. We know that caring for and serving others is the best way to live, because it changes not only other people's lives, but also our own. President Shaker's personal mantra is, and I quote, "Service is the rent I pay for the space I occupy on this earth, and I want to be a good tenant of this earth." This is something that Shaker says many times. And I know many of you have had the opportunity to hear President Shaker speak. His incredible passion for service, his accomplishments and impact are incredibly inspirational. He has a gift for telling stories of children receiving life-saving heart surgeries, bringing literacy to all children, and the empowerment of girls. Tonight, we're going to hear from a collection of speakers who will inspire you to lead, inspire you to finish the job of eradicating polio, inspire you to give and participate with our Rotary Foundation, make our organization more inclusive, and inspire you to empower girls and women around the world. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Coach Chantal Vallee is the current head coach of the University of Windsor women's basketball team, a program that went from one of the worst in Canada to a record 5-time consecutive national champion. Additionally, Chantal was the first female in history to hold the dual post of head coach and general manager of a men's professional team right in my neighborhood, the Hamilton Honey Badgers, who did make it to the championship final. Chantal's success lies in the application of her own published scientific findings as a researcher of leadership and coaching success. Her proven theory to practice method is what distinguishes her from others. In addition, she's often invited as a consultant for Canadian and American corporations, where she uses the same findings as a researcher to help grow businesses and foster managerial success. Through all her success lies a deep-rooted commitment to learning and bettering herself. Chantal has her sights set on helping others make a positive change happen in their lives by teaching the theory and application of what she has learned over the last 15 years of experience. Chantal helps people work with to become successful and achieve their goals. And I know you are going to be inspired and entertained by Coach Chantel's message. So here's Chantel.
I would assume that it is a known fact that professional coaches like me are very passionate individuals. Throughout my career, I had a chance to coach males and females, professional and amateurs, but one of the things that all these people had in common was the uncanny ability to focus and desire winning. During this past year, while our national and international seasons were postponed, all of my athletes returned home and I found myself kind of lost, a little bit without a purpose. After all, I had been coaching for over 20 years. In the middle of the summer, I was introduced to a young athlete that had a lot of potential. She had above average intelligence, above average skills, and above average physical capability. It was even thought of her that should she receive expert coaching, she could probably pierce the professional circuit and earn money doing it. I evaluated her and liked her. I decided to take her under my wing, under one condition, that she would be really focused on her training, even though the competition was only going to remain regional. I saw potential. I knew I could take this fine specimen all the way to the top. And just like that, my mind got busy with all things coaching again. It was fantastic. Now, I knew that she had no experience whatsoever in training or competing. But it was okay, because she could jump over 24 inches, and just that was enough to convince me I should continue to invest in her. So we established a routine. She knew which day I would pick her up and got really excited. We had to wear masks, but it didn't really seem to bother her. She was so focused on training. You could tell she was grateful to receive good coaching. She was listening to me. She was doing everything I asked her to do. I kept thinking like, wow, I need more athletes like this on my team. After a couple of sessions, I realized how good she was and how much she enjoyed training. I knew I had a champion on my hands. So I decided to double down. I told her there is no way we're doing this just for a participation medal. We are going to go all the way. We didn't have access to the training facilities every day, so I created some space in my backyard and allowed her to come and train every day, even multiple times a day. We started about mid-August, and by mid-November, I was told there was going to be a competition in November, so I registered us without telling her. And then I tripled down on the training. You see, I had it all figured out in my head. By November, the date of competition, Tegan, my super athletic Rottweiler mix rescue, was going to become the first regional champion in the very first agility competition. As a professional coach that I am, I can tell you that my dog was going to win. So I got a hold of the 12 obstacles on the course and I learned them by memory. I went to bed rehearsing them so I can give my cues properly the day of competition. Over, tunnel, walk, over. I made sure I knew everything so well because I knew I was going to show up the day that we had to compete. And then I even tapered Tegan the week before the competition date, just like we do a real human, which means I shortened her training, I gave her more sleep, I made sure that she didn't have a buildup of lactic acid in her muscles, she would be able to perform as well as she could. And then the morning of the competition came about. I woke up and I gave Tegan the speech. Tegan, today is the day of competition, and your mom is a really good coach. She's won championships. She's coached players that have become professionals, players that have made it to the Olympics, players that came back to play from the NBA. And today she's coaching you. Together, we got to be a team. Together, we have to inspire. Together, we connect and we can empower other people to be and do amazing things. You and I are a team, baby. I know you're going to be ready. I'm going to show up. And I know you will do your best to win. I know that we will win together. We're ready. When we arrived at the competition, she was focused. I love how she reacted because we were drawn to go last, but it did not bother her. She sat in line, waited patiently, and observed and looked the competition ahead of her. all those dogs were like faulting and slow and messing up obstacles. They were going like 45 seconds, 50 seconds. The fastest was Charlie the dog at 36. And we had already spotted him. We knew that we had to be faster than him to win. When our time came to go around, I could tell she was confident. And I was confident too. It was a little bit different for me because in a basketball game, I'm used to be on the sideline and I give direction, but I'm not participating actively into the game. When I train Tegan, I have to run the course with her. And we're in a barn, a huge barn where they used to run horses. And the course was about set up maybe like a tenth of the barn. Anyway, we set up in line, sat her down, took the leash out, had eye contact, and we got ready to go. She sat and waited for my signal. Over, walk. And as we get on the walk, she is so fast that I can hear the crowd go, ooh, and it made me feel so proud. I knew we were going to win this. She gets off the walk and I say, tunnel. She enters the tunnel full speed. And that gives me just enough time to look at the next obstacle to remember that I have to say over again so that she is on pace with the race. I'm waiting for her to get out. And suddenly, I don't see Tegan. Where'd she go? And then I hear the crowd laugh. As I turn, I see Tegan exiting the tunnel from where she had entered. That's the wrong way. And next thing you know, she is running freely, so fast, all over the barn in the fresh dirt. In a split second, this above average intelligent athlete had realized, what would be more fun? To continue to race with my mom and my coach, or to go and have fun in the fresh dirt? Tegan, in that split second, had decided to turn around in the tunnel. I had never seen her do so fast zoomies. And for those of you that don't know what a zoomie is, this is when the dogs are going super fast in a circle with no hope to ever catch them. And the clock is ticking. But I knew that if I could catch her, we could still finish on time. I knew she could do the whole course in less than 25 seconds. That's how fast she is. So I went after her. And thankfully, I caught her. And we finished the course, no problem, in 5 minutes and 25 seconds. We finished last. But because we're great Canadians, we were given a participation medal. I, 5-time national championship coach, was given a participation medal. I was so disappointed in Tegan. I was really disappointed. We had worked so hard. I had spent so much time training her and dedicating the last 4 months to this competition. I was going to give her an earful in the car. And this is when my family noticed. Chantal, are you actually upset for real? Don't you ever look at this dog? Look at her. She's the happiest we have ever seen her. And it's true. If I actually spend the time to look at Tegan, she was smiling. She was trying to give me kisses. She was really the happiest I have ever seen her. And this is when a dog can look right through your soul and give you the speech. Mom, are you always like that? Are you the same way with your athletes? Are you all about winning? About achievements? About earning medals? Or do you sometimes stop and enjoy life and play? My career, my livelihood is about winning. As coaches, when we win, this is when we get promoted, noticed, acknowledged. This is how we keep our job. This is how we put bread on our table. If we don't win, our contracts don't get renewed. And more than that, the last 10 years of my life, I had spent researching what makes coaches successful. How do leaders become so successful? How do people achieve and change things so that they're able to win with their companies or their coaching or their teams? And this is contrary to the research of Brené Brown that demonstrates that to feel whole, complete, a sense of purpose in life, happiness, it must include play. You see, I spent 10 years of my life researching how to become successful. Brené Brown spent her entire career researching how to feel happy. It's something she calls being wholehearted. Wholehearted living is about engaging life from a place of worthiness. In her book, Daring Greatly, Brené explains that cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done or how much is left undone, no matter what I achieve or not, I am enough. No matter what I achieve or not, I am enough. I didn't like Brené very much because she was challenging me to rethink my entire way of living. It's like if I just bought Tegan from her. But the message was powerful. When I work, do I experience joy? Do I ever take time to play in my life? Do I feel guilty when I rest? Or do I feel okay? When my players play for me, do they experience joy or only pressure? I have also found inspiration from another woman named Farah Alibay, who did something outstanding in her life. On February 18th, 2021, Farah Alibay, who grew up in a small town of Joliette in the province of Quebec, Canada, just like me, and whose father worked at the same shop as my father, and who went to the same high school as I went to, was the voice we heard from NASA landing the first ever motor robot on Mars. I watched it live, and though I did not know anything about Farah and assumed she was an American, I was extremely inspired to hear a female voice leading the landing on Mars, arguably the most daunting task for NASA in current human history. Yet about 1 year prior, on January 1st, 2020, Farah had written a post on her upcoming New Year's resolution. And I read, "A few months ago, I realized I was exhausted and straight up miserable. Waking up in the morning had become an impossible task. I was feeling cynicism towards my work, and making or keeping social engagements was overwhelming. I felt pressure to excel in all parts of my life, but realized that in the process of pushing myself so hard, I'd lost track of what actually brought me happiness. I haven't found a solution yet, but spending time outdoors and forgiving myself when I'm not able to give a task 100% are helping. The 2020s will be a great decade, and if it's a little slower, and with a few detours and new direction along the way, that's okay too." What a daunting post to write. Here's a professional woman who, instead of fearing losing her job, or being demoted, or being judged, decided to rethink her priorities and put her health first. Farah Alibay pulled a Tegan in the middle of the tunnel. She stopped, turned around, and decided to play. She dared rethink her priorities. Choosing health over work, happiness over reward, peace over busyness, or balance over success is not a way of doing that is really valued in our society. This is not something that society promotes at all if we want to please our boss, go up the ranks, or make it big in life. But today, alongside Brené Brown and Farah Alibay, I want to challenge all of us. I want to challenge all of us to rethink our priorities. Should we not spend more time with our relationships? More time laughing, more time resting, more time prioritizing our health? Let's stop wearing busyness as a badge of honor. Here is what 4 successful women have to say. Brené Brown. Brené suggests to create a playlist into your life. For example, she now schedules playtime in her calendar with her family. When they go on vacation, they realize that they did not like sightseeing all that much, but what made them happy was to play cards with family. So they now schedule playtime of playing cards during their vacation. By the way, my playlist now includes Zoomies with Tegan. Farah Alibay. She says, cut yourself some slack. We're so hard on ourselves all the time as human beings. Forgive yourself. If you can't give 100% all the time, it's normal. You can still be successful. And what about me? Well, I learned to laugh at myself. This is a picture of me going to a playoff game where somebody had made a life-size cutout of myself. And instead of being embarrassed, I decided to laugh at it. I went to meet with this gentleman and we had a great time. We didn't win the game, but I laughed a lot. Basically, I decided to just simply do more of what makes me happy. And finally, Tegan. Well, if you remember anything about today, this is the lesson to remember. Tegan had a second and thought about it. And yes, in the middle of the tunnel, when nobody saw her, when everything was just her and herself thinking, in a split second, she turned around and dared run free. You may argue that Tegan has not been successful with her participation medal. However, I will challenge that. Tegan did not teach me about success the way society does. Tegan taught me about personal fulfillment. Tegan taught me to relax, to enjoy life, to laugh a little. She emphasized that together we can celebrate relationships and connection, that together we can inspire each other and empower for change. As a group of Rotarians, together we can eradicate polio. Together we are powerful. In the end, if you remember anything about today, remember Tegan sitting on the podium with her participation medal and her most wholehearted smile. And remember that you too, you have the choice to turn around in the middle of any tunnel. Thank you.
Wow. I think those are tremendous words in the environment and the world we currently live in. I can't stress enough the balance between work and life and Rotary and how important it is. I hope we all take really this message to heart and have fun and make sure that if we're participating in this wonderful organization we know of as Rotary, we're doing it in a manner that provides fun. So Chantel, thank you so much for sharing those words with us. Thank you for inspiring us. I don't know about many of you, but I had no idea it was a dog when she first started talking. I thought it was obviously one of her players. So hopefully we'll one day be able to be in an audience and have Chantel in front of us presenting, speaking. But for now, it is on the format we're on, and we continue on with the program. So thank you, Chantel.
When a crisis hits, we look for solutions and react to the challenge of the moment. In 2020, that's COVID-19. And as the world races to find a vaccine, the polio eradication infrastructure is playing a critical role in protecting communities from the pandemic. It might seem invisible, but it's a vast disease-fighting toolkit that surveils for traces of the polio virus and tests thousands of samples every year, and focuses critical resources through hubs and emergency operations centers, maintains a sophisticated logistics network to safely deliver vaccine, and trains health workers to inform the community of the importance of immunizing children. Now, Rotary and its partners are using this polio infrastructure to also help respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Surveillance is a cornerstone of the polio eradication effort. In Ethiopia, community volunteers are now reporting suspected COVID-19 cases. And community health workers conduct house-to-house visits to identify suspected cases. Knowledge and information hubs like emergency operations centers are central to polio eradication activities in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. They are now also used as coordination centers for COVID-19 response, where polio partners develop plans, analyze data, and quickly share information, all in a centralized location. In Benin, teams created a national interactive dashboard, tracing contacts, mapping cases, and managing data. In Pakistan, Rotary's polio resource centers offer COVID-19 training for health workers, and one center serves as a testing site for the community. Across regions, the logistics network used to distribute polio vaccines is now essential in getting personal protective equipment to remote areas. In Pakistan, trained staff have collected thousands of COVID-19 samples. And teaming with UNICEF, Rotary distributed more than 3 million bars of soap to households in vulnerable areas of Afghanistan. Because good hygiene protects against polio and COVID-19. This infrastructure relies on the trusted voices of community influencers. The relationships they build ensure accurate health information protects the community against polio. In Afghanistan, 70,000 of them have been trained by the polio program. Now hundreds of thousands of households have access to critical polio and COVID-19 prevention information. Rotary and our partners built an infrastructure that is now addressing the largest public health crisis in a generation. We should be proud of this contribution. And eventually, when planes, boats, trains, and cars carry people around the world and viruses travel with them, this infrastructure will live on to tackle public health priorities and ensure a polio-free world. Your ongoing support for polio eradication will leave behind this everlasting legacy for decades to come.
And now to introduce our next presenter, please welcome from the Rotary Club of South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Maine in District 7780, the current chair of the International Polio Plus Committee, past Rotary International Vice President, Mike McGovern.
Our next presenter is Dr. Abdul Rahman Tunji Funcho, better known as Tunji to most of us. He is a husband, a father, a grandfather, a cardiologist, a Nigerian, a Rotarian, and Time Magazine named him as one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2020. We're very fortunate to have him as our Nigerian Polio Plus chair, as a member of the International Polio Plus Committee, as a member of the International Board of the Rotary Leadership Institute. And through his polio work, he also is one of 3 members of the Grants Committee that looks at all polio spending by Rotary throughout the world. Please welcome our special guest, Dr. Tunji.
Thank you very much for inviting me here, particularly RI Director-elect, Drew, and RI Vice President Valerie, through the good offices of past RI Vice President and Chair of IPPC, Mike McGovern. It's always a pleasure for me to be able to share my experience in our Polio Plus activities in Nigeria and the few experiences I've gained around the world. At this very huge audience. I came on board about 11 years ago as the chair of the Nigerian National Polio Plus Committee on the prompting of 2 of our highly respected past RI presidents who frequently come to Nigeria to assist with our NIDs and also to participate in some polio corrective surgeries and do some eye surgeries and so on. So at the start of the journey, I never knew what I was getting myself into, but I'm glad I got myself into it because I've learned a lot, I've gained a lot of experience, and I'm gratified about the coming together of a lot of people in partnership. I think we are touted to be the greatest public-private partnership for health intervention in the history of the world, and that's a very good thing. But often we forget that the strongest of this partnership is actually within Rotary. Rotary leaders at the level of the board of directors, the trustees of the foundation, have continuously over 3.5 decades worked together very, very closely. To support, International Polio Plus Committee to ensure that the mandate they've been given to support polio eradication across the world, is carried through. And through that, to the zones, to the districts, and to the clubs. I think this is the the greatest and the most important of this partnership, which has led us to be seen by our GPI partners, which is WHO, UNICEF, the Center for Disease Control, the Gates Foundation, to see Rotary as the leader in this effort to rid the world of the wild polio virus. So we must give ourselves a lot of credit for it, and congratulations to all of us. This partnership, has yielded a lot of good things for us. Apart from getting us to where we are today regarding polio eradication partners, which has now left us with just 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, that have still got to eradicate polio. But of course, the good news that some of you may be aware of is that even in those 2 countries, we have polio, last case of polio reported about 7 to 8 months ago. And I just got the very good news this morning that the Taliban in Afghanistan have allowed house-to-house immunization for polio, which they have not done in several years. So that gives us a shot in the arm and gives us a lot of hope that in the not too distant future, we're going to see the end of polio transmission in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And so we've come a long way. We faced a lot of challenges across the world. In Nigeria in particular, we faced challenges from the insurgency by Boko Haram in northeastern part of the country, which was what led to our setback when we had a new case of polio resurging in 2016. But with the efforts of Rotary International, we have been able to put a lid on that outbreak, such that last year, August, the certification committee certified Africa polio-free by virtue of Nigeria having been without any case of polio for 4 years. So challenges have been there. We also have had challenges from anti-vaccine groups, apart from Boko Haram, who just like we're having with, incidentally, with the COVID-19, vaccination, spurious claims of the vaccine being injurious, causing sterility and stuff like that. And it has helped us, to show people that these same things were said about the polio vaccine. And I always make the point that our population in Nigeria in particular has increased by 30% since we started polio immunization. So there's no basis in fact for the fact that the vaccine was made in order to decrease the population, particularly the population of Muslims in the northern part of the country. So we have really been mounting this, coming across these challenges, and we have, been able to find solutions to these challenges. Some of them quite innovative solutions. We have vast areas in this country that are very hard to reach, either because of the terrain or because of weather conditions at certain times of the year. With those two, we have found ways to get around it. We work with the military very closely in the northeastern part of the country, using various means to ensure that no child is missed from having their immunizations done, so that we can maintain currently our 0 case situation. Now, our slogan in Nigeria is keep polio at 0, and thankfully we have been able to maintain that. However, we have this distraction of circulating vaccine-derived polio, which is a variant or a mutation of the polio virus in the vaccine, the type 2 of the vaccine. Thankfully, the new vaccine, the new oral polio vaccine, been developed, which is quite stable, which is less likely to mutate. And Nigeria was one of the first countries, to start using that vaccine. And currently, we've had quite a number of outbreak responses aimed at ensuring that every child has this new vaccine. These new vaccines ensures that even if the virus remains in the environment for some time, the tendency for it to mutate and cause disease is very, very limited indeed. But then we have quite a few tools in our arsenal to help us achieve the goal we achieved. I believe one of the most important ones is the use of frontline workers. Because no matter what we do, no matter how much funds we raise, which I'll talk about in a minute, and no matter how much our cold stain, work, if we do not get those precious drops of the vaccines into the mouths of our children, it will be an exercise in futility, because that is the goal of the program. And the people who actually ensure that this is done are frontline workers. And the largest number of these organized frontline workers are what we call VCM, voluntary community mobilizers. These are mostly women, there are men amongst them, who are living in their communities, respected in the communities. Sometimes they are traditional birth attendants from those communities, so they are known. And they are the ones who help us to, number one, persuade the households to take the vaccine. Number two, give us an accurate idea of how many children below the age of 5 live in every household in their community, so that when we come out to do house-to-house immunization, we know whether we're missing any child. But then we have over time used them also for other healthcare interventions, for other vaccines, for instance, childhood antigens that children require, but also to assist in maternal and child care, make sure that women go for antenatal care where possible, ensure that when time for delivery comes, they go to the hospital when necessary, because home delivery is quite high in our rural communities in Nigeria. But they are trained also to recognize danger signs and ensure that these women have safe, supervised delivery and recognize primary healthcare centers in particular. So they've been a great asset to us, and Rotary in Nigeria has continuously recognized them on an annual basis until COVID-19 came calling, with both financial and also awards, with plaques and shields, for us to appreciate what they are doing and continue to encourage them to continue what they are doing. We call them volunteers because what we give them is just a stipend. It is barely enough, to be called a good remuneration for the great work they're doing. So our frontline workers, are the linchpin of our efforts to ensure that we eradicate polio. But as I said earlier, it costs money. We have a saying in Nigeria that a good pot of soup costs a lot of money. The polio eradication program has expended a lot of our resources, and I want to thank all of you who are listening to me, Rotarians and non-Rotarians alike, who, despite the fact that your environment has been free of polio for about 2 decades or more, continue to contribute to our Polio Plus Fund. This has allowed us to be able to meet our promise around the world, for that matter, of ensuring that no child is ever paralyzed by the wild polio virus. We need to continue raising funds. Current estimates are that till the end of 2021, we will need about $1.2 billion US. And the current model to when we expect eradication will take place, about 2026, is about $5.1 billion US. So we really need to continue raising funds, continue to advocate, to our government, to, our partners, for the need to stay on course until the job is done, and continue to encourage ourselves, Rotarians, at the club levels in particular, for them to be aware that we are yet, to breast the tape. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we need to continue what we are doing. In fact, in some instances, we need to do a little bit more to convince people that the job is still not done. COVID-19 is a great reminder of the huge work we have done, because we have now been using the resources for polio eradication to do the most important things for COVID-19, which is surveillance. You need to pick it up early and ensure that people, are immunized, people are isolated, and contact tracing helps us to ensure that the spread is less. We're also using Rotarians and also Rotary staff to educate, people to undertake basic protocols of hand hygiene, wearing their masks, and also avoiding crowded areas, particularly indoor crowded areas. So the Rotary program has been of immense benefit, to the world, thanks, to the determination of Rotarians, like you, who have kept faith with our promise to the children of the world to ensure that no child is ever paralyzed by the polio virus. I thank you for this great opportunity to talk to you today, and I wish you a very, very successful conference. Thank you very much.
Tunji, thank you so much for that report on polio and where we stand. I think we all can breathe a little easier with hopes that we only have, give or take, a little more than 2 years to go to hopefully have this completely behind us. To have the report that there's only been 2 cases this year, one in Afghanistan, one in Pakistan, that happened way back in February. While there very possibly could be a blip, all indications are showing, as Tunji shared, all the testing is coming back positive. So positive and coming back negative in a positive way, I should say. So while there very well could be a hiccup, we are hopefully on the way to where we want to be with this great effort. And Tunji, thank you for all that you've done in the name of polio and all that you've done in the name of Rotary, and really for getting our name out there and being recognized as a world leader in this effort and being in Time Magazine's top 100. Really, really impressive. And thank you so much for joining us. With that, on with the program.
Raindrops fall from the sky. They may be small, but together they make a mighty ocean. In the same way, your commitment to doing good in the world enables the Rotary Foundation to fund the projects that you care about. Last year, even during a pandemic, hundreds of thousands of donors like you gave more than $440 million. Your generosity allowed the foundation to fund more than 2,000 global grants, creating opportunities for people everywhere to respond to their community's unique needs. A $15 donation could buy polio vaccines. A water filter cost only $50, and $100 could provide COVID-19 training. You supported causes such as fighting disease, building strong communities, and promoting lasting peace. So whether you gave $1 or $1 million, you gave help and hope. The people whose lives you've touched, the families, the parents, the children, thank you. And so do we.
Our next speaker really needs no introduction, as she is one of our very own in Zones 28 and 32, none other than Dean Roars, past RI Director, past Rotary International Vice President, and current Rotary Foundation Trustee. Dean is a personal friend and a mentor. If you know Dean, you know that she grew up in Zambia and has lived in Malawi, Namibia, and South Africa. She is a strong voice and advocate for education, women and girls' rights, and human rights. She has traveled the world with Rotary and shares her inspirational stories in such a way that touches each of our hearts and inspires us to be a better version of ourselves. Dean brings her knowledge and vast experience not only to the TRF board, but she also serves as president of the Rotary Foundation Canada, where I have the honor to serve as a director under her leadership. November is Foundation Month. Each year, Rotary International highlights November as Rotary Foundation Month to emphasize the importance of and need for Rotarian support to the Rotary Foundation. Equally important is to hear stories such as the one we're about to hear from Trustee Dean on the why our foundation makes a difference, and how we can collectively serve to change lives. So Dean, the stage is yours.
Thank you for that great introduction. I'm Dean Rose, a trustee of the Rotary Foundation. And you know, we experience so many different things in our lives, and we really have so many Rotary stories to tell. But so many times our moments of Rotary revelation are associated with our experiences during our international projects. But today, I want to tell a story of a very impactful moment that really in many ways changed my life. And it happened right here in downtown Vancouver in British Columbia. Dress for Success is a program which sponsors women who through unfortunate circumstances have lived on the streets, been beaten up, have gone through drug addiction and got themselves back in their lives again, or have suffered severe abuse somewhere in their lives. Those who are trying to regain their lives and re-enter the workforce. Think about them. Think of these women. They have so little access to hairstyling, to makeup, or to clothing to set themselves up for their all-important new job interviews. Now, Dress for Success offers them a day where they can have their hair styled, they can have their makeup done, and they can choose and be fitted for a professional outfit. Through a district grant, my Rotary Club sponsored just such a day. And I had the privilege to accompany and mentor a woman through her special day. I'll never forget this experience, because to watch her transformation from a woman who had for years been living on the streets of downtown Vancouver, a woman who had had a very successful professional career, who had had a family, had had a home, who had made a very good place for herself in her life, but who then started abusing alcohol for one reason or the other, went into alcohol addiction and lost everything. She lost her job, she lost her family, she lost her home, and she landed up living on the streets in downtown Vancouver. She lived there for quite a number of years, but through the various programs that she eventually took advantage of, she raised herself out of that fog of addiction. And here she was today, reinventing herself into somebody new. You can think of that butterfly and the chrysalis when it enters and it spreads its wings. Well, I could see that happening before my eyes. They washed her hair, they colored it, they styled it. She looked different. They did her makeup, and suddenly she had a smile and a twinkle in her eyes. They gave her the choice of a professional outfit, and she changed. She was standing in front of a mirror, and I was standing next to her. And she looked at herself, and I could see the tears running down her face. And she turned to me and she said, "For the first time in years, I see myself as I always knew I was, but not as the woman that the world has had to see over the past years." Can you imagine the courage that it's taking from this woman to reinvent herself? Can you imagine the courage that it took to lift herself up from her situation and to move forward? Now the step of having to totally reinvent herself back into an old professional life. I think back of the few dollars that our district grant actually cost cost our club. And I think of the change that it made to just this one woman. And I know that our Rotary Foundation spends its money in ways beyond imagination. We changed this woman's opportunity for inventing herself. We gave her that ability to be able to recognize herself in herself as she was today and as she wishes to be in her future. And all I can say to Rotary and to Rotarians and to the Rotary Foundation is thank you for giving her that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Once again, you've touched our hearts with a really personal story. And we know that there are times in many of our lives when we may need someone to reach out and see our potential, when we're not necessarily seeing it in ourselves and we're not necessarily in the right place. What an incredible difference we can make in people's lives. A favorite quote of mine is from our founder, Paul Harris, who said, "Rotary changes us and those we serve. I believe we can change the world one life at a time." And that's exactly what you and your district have done, literally changing the life of one special woman and giving her and others a chance for a new beginning, that transformation that you spoke of. And I know that that did take courage from her and the other participants, and you were there to help, and our foundation helped make a difference. Thank you for being with us tonight and sharing that amazing story. I always love to hear you tell stories, Dean. It touches me. I now have the distinct honor to introduce another friend and colleague, Dr. Bowtie Todd Jenkins. As the chair of the Rotary International Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, I am thrilled to work with so many talented and diverse members. Todd is one of those members who brings a professional and personal perspective to the work we're doing. Todd is a global inclusion trainer, strategist, and speaker with his company, Bowtie Leadership. As a consultant, he has worked with companies such as Walmart, Google, Facebook, American Airlines, and Deloitte, just to name a few. His doctorate research area focused on minority professionals, retention, and workplace inclusion practices, both real and perceived. Todd brings an energy to this sometimes difficult and challenging topic, and I love the way he always offers that we each give ourselves the space and the grace on this journey. He is inspirational and believes in his philosophy to bow tie it all together, serve, and simply be a gift unto the world. So I bring you Todd Jenkins.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Todd Jenkins, known as Dr. Bowtie Todd, and I am so excited to be with you today. Honestly, it is an exciting time to be a Rotarian. I'm a proud Rotarian, almost 10 years, and I am so proud, not only because of what we do every day, but also the opportunities we have to do it better, the opportunities to serve and impact our communities, and the opportunities to do better with inclusion. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion is very, very important to me, and it should be important to you, because when we get inclusion right, guess what? We all win. It makes us all bigger, better, and stronger together. And so what I wanted to do very quickly, we don't have a lot of time, is that I wanted to share just a few items of how we can take advantage of this opportunity, the opportunity to transform our communities and also make Rotary better than we found it. So the first question that I usually get around diversity, equity, and inclusion is, what is diversity, equity, and inclusion? How do you define it? Because I know we all come to this space very differently. And so the first thing, we need to level set as a club, as an organization. What does these words mean? But I tell you what these words mean to me. What is diversity? So diversity is twofold. Diversity is visible and invisible differences that make someone complete. So you are looking at me right now. You see a good looking brown guy on this camera, with a big smile and a bow tie. That is my visible difference. But you may not know that I'm one of 13 kids. I can habla Espanol and follow Portuguese. I'm afraid of heights, but I love to travel on planes. and that is my invisible diversity. So I just want you to understand when we talk about diversity, yes, it's the things you see on the outside, like your gender, race, ethnicity, your eye color, etc. But it's also the things you cannot see, your experiences, your background, your sexual orientation, etc. Okay, so that's diversity. What is inclusion? Inclusion is very simple. Inclusion is fun, actually. Inclusion is creating an environment, creating a climate where we behave in a way that we are not only respected, seen, and heard, but everyone is invited and everyone feels as if they belong. And equity, because you can't talk about true inclusion and the epitome of what diversity can manifest without equity. And equity is really access to opportunity, access and really removing the structural barriers to opportunity. Okay. And that's what I think we have to really discuss here as friends and family in Rotary, right? What are some of the barriers that is in the way for us in, really achieving the work of inclusion? So that's where we start. Start with the definition. I encourage you to go back to your club, go back to committees, and really just start with defining what these terms mean for your culture and climate of the communities in which you live and serve. Then I would tell you to go to the next phase. The first thing you want to think about is where are you at? Where are we? The assessment. We have a great tool that's housed on Rotary.org, how to diversify your membership and assess your club around diversity. I encourage you to check it out. It's a great tool to just understand the demographics in your area and to really help you set up, some goals and objectives to see what you wish to achieve. Which is my next point, is the next question you want to ask yourself is, where will you wish to go as an organization, as a district, as a leader in this space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because there's so many opportunities. So you really want to have a visioning session and you really want to put some pen to paper and allow ideas to be shared of what does that look like? Where do you want to go and see the organization in this book of work? And then last but not least, which I love because we are people of action, what are you going to do to get there? And so this comes to that roadmap and action plan, putting together an inclusion committee or really embedding it into the systems, the processes and the procedures and the culture so that we can really lift up the strategy to make a more inclusive organization. So those are the three questions that I'm going to leave you with. Where are we? Where do we wish to go? And most importantly, what we're going to do to get there. But I'm going to tell you, give yourself some grace and space because we all show up to this space very differently and we're all on a journey, but everyone has a role to play. And it's okay. It's okay. Small changes in this space can make a big difference. So it's okay if you don't get it right the first time, but get back up because there's hope. There's hope because you're listening today and I believe in you. I really do. And you have to think about what is your why? What is your why to do the work of inclusion? Because there's going to be times where you may feel exhausted. It's going to be times where you may feel as someone may disagree with you, but you have to keep with hope. I share with you my why. And my mission is to create spaces for all humans to belong and thrive together, one bow tie conversation at a time. But in addition, my why is strengthened by my little boy. Yeah, my little boy, Mateo. Mateo just turned 7 months, my first son. He's my why. He's my why because I want as Mateo grow up that he can see himself in any part of our organization as Rotary. Because Rotary has a great proposition, a great value, and I want Mateo to be able to feel as if he can see the value of himself doing the great work of Rotary. And that's where we can all contribute because once again, my friends, we all have a role to play. So enjoy the rest of the Institute. And if there's anything else I can do to help support, feel free to reach out to me. Know that you have a friend in me and we're all working together to increase inclusivity, equity, and diversity in Rotary. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
I love energy, and Bowtie brings just that Todd, thank you so much for spending some time with us, sharing your message, and most importantly, showing that you exist in our organization. Because far too long, our organization has been similar. And I think it's individuals like you that really shine forward and bring to light what is possible. And I'm extremely proud that you are a fellow Rotarian. I thank you for your service and thank you for joining us. And it's unfortunate because for some of us, we've actually heard you sing, and it's pretty amazing when you do that. And obviously you didn't do that tonight. So I think that leaves a wide opening for you to come back to another event so you can share with us your voice and again, your energy. So with that, we are going to turn to our next speaker, who I'd like to introduce now. Stephanie Willard is a Melbourne-born social entrepreneur. She's a Rotary Foundation Peace Scholar and Rotarian who has created the international aid organization 7 Women. Stephanie started her 7 Women project when she was only 22 years old after visiting Nepal and meeting 7 disabled women making soaps and candles in a small tin shed. At the 7 Women headquarters, women manufacture fair trade products that are sold both locally and to an international market. These enterprises fund literacy, skills, and income generation program for thousands of women in Nepal. Education programs hosted by 7 Women. In 2016, Stephanie was recognized on the global stage with the prestigious Rotary Responsible Business Award presented at the United Nations headquarters in New York City to only 6 honorees worldwide. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Willard.
खेतीको काम गर्न मलाई गाह्रो हुन्छ outside all people are teach me in the beginning time my life is going lost.
I started my travel company 7 years ago and bringing groups from Australia to Nepal to experience the magic that Nepal offers.
When women came here, they like the caterpillar. In the beginning time, I'm also like a caterpillar. Now I am a butterfly.
There's something very special about Nepal. It brings people back to why we're here and the meaning of life. I believe travel is a huge force for good, and we've tapped into that with 7 Women. I've always wanted to make a difference for as long as I can remember, from a very young age, and I remember thinking that to be able to make a difference I have to experience as much as possible.
There's really good stuff and great opportunities to share with other human beings this whole life experience that we all travel on.
We can encourage women to reach their human potential and step out of the darkness. Thank you everybody for having me part of this incredible event. I am so happy to be here, and that amazing little clip that we've just seen was captured in Nepal on our last tour, and you might see some familiar faces in the trailer, and what I love about that is it captures and showcases the incredible human potential that we all have inside of us, and it's been an absolute honour for me to see that transformation and the drawing out of that human potential in the women that we've been working with in Nepal. And it's ironic that I say this because Rotary as an organisation draws out that human potential in people. So today I'd like to share a little bit about my story in creating 7 Women, how it began, and some of the incredible success we have had in showcasing our 7 Women model across the globe with the support of organisations like Rotary. So I, as a very curious young person, and I've had the privilege of meeting young people across the world and people in general that have this incredible passion to make a difference, like many, many Rotarians. And I had that, and I went to Nepal when I was 19 years old. It was my first experience in a developing country. And I was moved, touched, and so inspired by the generosity of spirit that I saw and felt in the people that I met, but very taken aback by the outward, the poverty on the streets, and that in-your-face type of poverty that makes you think, as a visitor to that country, how can I help? And I was asked back to lead tours of architects from Melbourne over to Nepal. And it was at the end of one of those trips that I was walking down the back streets of Kathmandu and the dirty, dusty, tiny little alleyways. And ahead of me was a woman who was very clearly physically disabled, struggling to carry 2 heavy bags. And she turned into a tiny little tin shed made of, corrugated tin sheets. And in that tin shed were 6 other women who were sitting on the freezing cold concrete, making candles out of an ancient looking candle makers, with the hot wax over the flame and pouring it into this, stainless steel ancient candle makers to sell to the local market. And luckily one of these women spoke broken English, Sangeeta, and she was telling me some of the stories of these women who were sitting in this tin shed making these products. And it was heart-wrenching to hear that these women had come from different remote villages and to make a living, to create a future for themselves and their families. But because of their physical disabilities, they were unable to sell their products. And in fact, there was a stigma about disability in Nepal, that if you're disabled in this life, you're seen to be evil in a past life. And coming from a place like Australia, my heart really felt for these women, and as all of us would, I wanted to be able to support these women in creating that life for themselves, but because of their physical appearance, they weren't able to sell the products that they were making, and therefore unable to make enough for their basic daily needs. And this was a social construct. This was the cultural belief that had been passed down through the generations. Like many of our cultures and societies have these beliefs that either support the human potential in people or squash the human potential. And it was just incredibly heart-wrenching to see that this belief that was held in society that wasn't necessarily the truth was limiting and squashing the human potential of these women. Not only the beliefs but they had begun to embody these beliefs themselves. So I, as a young person, wanted to help, as you can imagine, and didn't know what to do. And I remember walking to the nearest internet cafe that day to phone home in Melbourne, phone my mum, and said, "Mum, I've just met these 7 women who are living and operating out of a tin shed. Do you think I can make a difference? I've got $200, 200 Australian dollars, and I had about a week left in Nepal. Do you think one person can make a difference?" Because it was very overwhelming. And I remember Mum saying on the other end of the phone, "Go for it, you'll be able to make a small difference and we'll support you," her and Dad. And that was the encouragement I needed at that point to think, okay, I can go back and let's see what we can do. I'm not sure if Mum and Dad realised how much support they would need to give me over the next decade plus. But that was the initial encouragement and energy that I needed to think, okay, let's do something. So with my $200, I went back the next day and we were able to hire 2 trainers to come and train the women in skills of knitting, which many of them knew how to do already, coming from remote villages, when, the freezing cold winters, and knitting blankets for their families. And they began making products, and I took them back to Melbourne, Australia. And it was very, very challenging, as you can imagine, in the beginning, working in an international context, as many of you have probably experienced. Very, very different cultures, different language. And the women that we were working with, the 7 initial women, were illiterate, as many, many women are in Nepal. So measuring products and quality control and all of the systems and things to make this a robust, sustainable enterprise we had to start from ground zero, and that's what we did. But the incredible journey of seeing these women light up day by day as they were able to contribute something and see that contribution honoured by the sales of the product, and then, you know, them creating their own futures through being able to create products and then being sold in Australia and now abroad to Europe and many different countries, and that's the core of the Seven Women model. I could have gone back to Australia and asked for donations and given them handouts and free things, but I think you know, as Rotary is very much in support of those sustainable models to help with the training of the people, so they can stand on their own 2 feet and be financially free and independent. And that's very much how Seven Women began. I really wanted to make sure that we were honouring the abilities and skills and potential in each of these women who we were working with. And so we've created an amazing fair trade manufacturing enterprise in Nepal, where we have a shop, we export globally, and about 5 or 6 years into the Seven Women, the organisation, we wanted to diversify the skills available to these women and started a cooking school, which we renovated a little shed out the back of our headquarters, and that became our thriving enterprise, which is now the Kathmandu Cooking School, where the women were able to share their incredible skills and abilities and teach visitors how to cook their local cuisines. Few years on from that, which we launched our incredible guest house that we renovated on our last trip that you saw at the beginning of this talk, where the guests can stay in a place that is also training disabled and marginalised women in new skills of hospitality and customer service, front of house, back of house, learn all of these new skills through working with us at Seven Women. I had no idea of the magnitude of what this would turn into when I was 19 and going to Nepal, and at 22 when I went back to Nepal I met these women. I had no idea the incredible enterprise this would turn into, the collection of ecosystem of enterprises that we've created. And I am so, so grateful for the support of Rotary all over the world that have hosted screenings of our documentary. We've had so many Rotary trips with us in Nepal through my tour company, where we had these 10-day cultural immersions to allow Rotarians and involve Rotarians in being part of creating Seven Women and creating our future. Our future vision is a big one. It's to replicate the social enterprise model that we have in Kathmandu, Nepal, out into 7 different villages in Nepal that we're working in, that we deliver our literacy and education programs and run our scholarship programs. And it's to support through micro enterprise and build a number of different enterprises in those villages to really facilitate them to thrive, and with the women at the forefront of this, because women are incredible agents of change. And one of the metaphors that the women use at Seven Women is the butterfly from the caterpillar in the cocoon, when they receive the training, to the individual butterfly and to the group of butterflies when they are financially independent, socially empowered, and able to spread their wings and fly and train other women in Nepal. So this is an incredible metaphor to capture what we are about at Seven Women. So I'd like to, say a special thank you to Rotary, because Rotary has been a key part of my journey in creating Seven Women that I started 17 years ago, I think it was now, and has now educated, trained and employed over 6,000 women in Nepal who are now thriving and passing those skills and that ripple effect of that energy, that positivity out to many, many more women. And for many of you who have travelled to Nepal and countries like Nepal, I'm sure you understand the value of creating that real and lasting change in these communities that will be passed down through generations and generations to come. I did my Peace Fellowship with Rotary through the scholarship. It was an incredible experience that linked me up globally to people that are like-minded and that have dedicated their lives to making the world a better place, like you as Rotarians have done. I learnt so much about the power of creating networks and communities of like-minded people and what is possible, as the many, many Rotary projects show. But I will always, always remember that the first people that supported my idea when I was in Nepal and we went with these 7 women was the Rotary Club of Ivanhoe in my hometown, about 2 minutes walk from my house. When I didn't know who to reach out to and ask for support, I wrote from Kathmandu, Nepal, back to the Rotary Club and said, we've got this opportunity to have training from the United Nations Development Program, and we need $1,000 to buy the materials to be able to make the most of this training opportunity. And they wrote back the next day and said, yes, we're happy to support you. So I will always remember those that supported me in the very early days in the beginning, because that's what seed funded and kick-started this incredible idea. And I think, you know, 7 Women is just a tiny example of the many, 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 many hundreds of thousands of projects that Rotary has supported to grow and to thrive. It's taken me across the world. I've spoken on stages globally through Rotary and outside of Rotary, and it's just given me the most incredible life. And the message that I'd love to end on is, you know, no longer can we just have lives where we create businesses or think of ourselves and our own families and what we want. It's when you have, and my grandma used to say to me, my beautiful grandma, if you're an honest person with a good heart and you've got a goal for the greater good, you will get help from God. You'll get help from somewhere. So that has been very, very much my experience in creating 7 Women. And that's, you know, why I absolutely love being a Rotarian and being part of the wider Rotary network, because Rotarians draw the best out in each other, draw the potential out, that recognise the human potential, and allow that to flower and blossom and make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. What an incredible story. And I know the chat box was just lit up with people commenting, some that have gone to the cooking school. And thank you for sharing that opening video. And yes, there were some familiar faces, and I had hoped to be one of them on that trip, but it didn't work out. So I hope to travel with you to visit as soon as I am able. You know, one person, Stephanie, at such a young age, using your last $200 to make a difference. And today we see the results. These women have not only been given the support to sell their local crafts, but have established a guest house, promoted tourism, expanded their enterprise with that cooking school that some of us have attended, all providing an equitable chance to lead and support their families and contribute to the economy. Thank you for being with us tonight, Stephanie. You are truly an inspiration, and you're quite right that women are agents of change. So I love that message. Equality is a fundamental human right that's necessary for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. President Shaker is prioritizing projects that focus on improving the health, education, well-being, and economic security of girls across the globe. The impact of empowering girls will be felt for generations, because we know that when we empower mothers, they empower their daughters. Empowering girls means healthier families. Empowering girls is the key to breaking the cycle of poverty for families. Empowering girls strengthen economies. And the bottom line, investing in girls is one of the smartest things that we can do, and it's the right thing to do. So as we work in service locally or globally, let's look at it through the lens of empowering the girl. Perhaps you have a long-standing project. Does it already empower girls, or could it? We have 2 Empowering Girls ambassadors in our zone, past District Governor Carol Tickleman from Zone 28 and past District Governor Mary Shackleton from Zone 32. They and their team of assistant ambassadors are here to help you begin a project, enhance a project, or contribute financially to a project. So reach out and let's celebrate, let's advertise everything that we're doing to empower girls and in the service of empowering girls. Together, we have been inspired tonight. And I know that each of you have an inspiring story, a Rotary moment. And I want you to tell your story. We heard some really great ones tonight. During Foundation Month, please support our foundation, but make sure you know why. And when you have that why, share it broadly. We do such good in the world, and we keep it to ourselves. We don't tell our stories. We don't tell the general public. We're the best ambassadors. You each inspire me when I hear your stories, so please inspire others and tell your story. I want to close my comments for the evening by just saying thank you. Thank you for being with us last night as we connected, tonight as we inspired, and join us tomorrow as we celebrate. Thank you to the incredible team that put this summit together. Thank you for our speakers who joined us. Chair Drew Kessler, always keeping it fresh and relevant. Thank you for your dedication to our zones and to Rotary. We are so proud. You are going to make an incredible Rotary International Director, and everyone is 100% behind you. Your team is just waiting. Tonight was brought to you by our incredible tech team of Liz Smith-Yeats, who always makes us look good, Bruce Goldson, our invisible master of ceremonies, and Sue Goldson, our advisor and taskmaster. She certainly keeps me in line. So thank you so much for being with us. There's a few more segments and advertisements that we need to share with you. So I'll see you all tomorrow night, same place, same time. Thanks.
This upcoming March, the Rotary Club of Calgary East will be hosting the ambitious Zone 28 and 32 Interact Convention.
Myself, Rebecca, and Camille are the convention co-chairs and co-founders of this event, and joined by PDGs Christine and Tracy, we make up the executive committee.
So what is ZIC? The Zone 28 and 32 Interact Convention is a 4-day event where interactors from within these two zones will come together in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Throughout this event, we will focus on 4 main objectives. The first is to illuminate and highlight the initiatives and projects that Interact clubs are undertaking within their communities.
The second is to educate interactors on the various structures of Rotary that they may leverage into their professional and social lives.
In order to create impact in clubs and communities across the zones, we will equip Interact students with the skills and resources needed to be effective change makers.
And last but not least, we want to provide these interactors with a platform to collaborate and network with each other to create a pathway for multi-district collaboration.
How can you be involved with ZIC?
The first way to be involved with ZIC is by registering as a participant. Our registration fee is 991 Canadian dollars, and spots are first come, first served. In order to learn more about registration, please visit our Register a Participant page.
The second way to get involved is to donate. Through our tiered donor system, you are able to contribute greatly to the success of our event. If donating is something you, your club, or district are interested in, please look at the donate page on our website.
If you have any other questions or concerns, please send us an email or check out our website. You can also reach out to us through our Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope to see your participation.
My hope is we have inspired you tonight. My hope is that the program lived up to the big place I put it when we started tonight. And now for what we have on store for tomorrow, as Valerie mentioned, tomorrow we celebrate. Tomorrow will be hosted by past District Governor Peter Schultz, and he's going to bring us through all the awards that our great Rotarians have received over the past Rotary year. We're going to have a lot of fun. So my hope is you join us for tomorrow. And while I have the last word, I will put in another plug for next year's events of Life Below Water and Life on Land. If you haven't already done so, please take this opportunity to register. You can go to Zone 2832's website where both events are featured. I thank you again for joining us. I wish you a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.